Can I ask you something? Like, this is just a random fear I just had, and I don't know if this is a real question, but if Flutter gets really popular, um,
Hmm.
and then a lot of people are making iPhone apps through Flutter instead of just going traditional Swift route,
Hmm.
does Apple have the power to just be like, no, no more Flutter, like just cut it
Apple,
off? Can they do that? I mean, they, oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's the question.
mhm.
Yeah,
Mm,
what do you
yeah,
think?
it's really interesting because I saw this question from the Chinese Flutter community before,
Okay.
and yes, Apple definitely has the power, and it will be pretty easy to do because like all the Flutter apps have like the same footprint,
Hmm.
um, but they don't have like the reason to do that.
Hmm.
Mostly because um, mostly because like Flutter developers aren't really threatening the Apple ecosystem, at least not yet. Because the number one reason is that Flutter doesn't have code push. So
Hmm.
they're like a Flutter, an app developed by Flutter or developed with Flutter, um, is almost like an app developed with native technologies
Right.
because you still have to recompile your app, and then like your app won't just change, right? Like if let's say like you submitted a super child friendly app on the App Store, and then suddenly you just like turn on one switch, and your app just totally changes, and then you can like just change your app to whatever like you like, then I would say probably Apple would take actions. That's why
Yeah.
Apple stopped like accepting those just pure web apps, like apps with just a web view, like those like Apache
Right.
Cordova
Yeah.
apps. Hmm. Yeah,
Huh.
if there's any worry, I would worry about React Native apps rather than Flutter apps because of code push.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And just just obviously you were saying how there's no Apple has no reason to just cut Flutter people
Hmm.
off or cut the Flutter tech off. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you're right. Because and even if you want to make a Flutter app and you want to make an iPhone app, you still have to pay that fee. You know that membership, like
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but like just to publish an app on Apple, you have to have that developer
Uh-huh.
program. It's like $100 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're still making money from it and stuff, so they should support it, right? Like they don't have a big
Yeah, and
reason to
you're
be
also paying
like,
the
nah, you have to
30%.
use Swift.
Mhm.
Like, no, yeah. Because that's
Yeah,
because
that would be
that's
kind of
kind of
cool.
what people sometimes worry about. Like this was a worry on the Apple end cutting it off, but like sometimes people worry about when I say I'm doing Flutter, they always say, "Oh, Google, don't you know like Google like kills a lot of small
Oh,
projects and stuff like that." And yeah,
mhm,
that question is always out there. So what do you
mhm.
think of that?
I feel like yeah, Google is known for like just you know not finishing their projects. But I feel like Flutter now is kind of too big to be abandoned.
Mm,
Um, and I feel pretty safe about that. And I thought about how, because I was gonna say that how Flutter is like a complete different layer
mm,
of, let's say like let's just say this. Let's say uh, if you're an Objective C programmer, and then suddenly let's just say like this is impossible, but let's just say Apple banned Objective C. Like you can't use Objective C anymore. Well, now your code, like you don't lose all your work, right? Like your work is still preserved. Um, like it's compiled. Like it's like you can easily have that to be in Swift, and they're interoperable. But if you use Flutter, and then now the Flutter technology, let's say the Flutter just the Flutter code base magically disappeared, and now all your work is gone.
mm.
Like you can't convert your work easily to another technology. You're sort of like vendor locked.
Yeah. And oh, I mean, no, no,
But
go ahead, keep going.
oh, sorry, but I was gonna say like that's not a concern. Like that's not a real concern.
And also, Flutter is just open source, so it's like
Mhm.
there's no worry in that. Even if they do decide, like, I think I read someone's. point on Reddit about this where even if Google decides to no longer support Flutter, it's like gotten so big and it's open source to a point where uh, you'll easily be able to, if worst case scenario, you need to like migrate out of it or like
Mm-hmm.
just to have that maintenance of support. Um,
Uh-huh.
this is kind of like kind of off topic, but it just kind of related about like
Mm-hmm.
you know when they develop games, and one
Mm-hmm.
game that me and David used to play a lot is StarCraft 2. And StarCraft
Mm-hmm.
2 is a game where Blizzard, the company, would support it a lot, and you know, balance, put a lot of effort into it, and now they don't support it anymore. But just that kind of like, and it's in a place where it can just run on its own kind of
Mm-hmm.
situation, right? And so hopefully,
Yeah.
like, it's not a big concern when someone says, "Oh, like you know, Google just kills all these projects," and they do kill a lot of small projects. But I think Flutter, hopefully, is you know immune to that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please put my mind at ease. Put my mind at ease.
Hopefully, hopefully.